This is Masterful Chats, and I'm Rebecca. Hello and welcome back to all of my wonderful subscribers, and hello to those of you who are viewing me for the very first time. Masterful Chats are short, clear, concise, clarifying conversations designed to uplift, empower, inspire, and support you as you move forward along your spiritual path and in your life's journey. And today's chat is about filters. We all have them. They affect the way that we move through the world, the way we process information, the way we interact in relationships. Filters are a big deal. So it's all about filters, what they are, how they impact your life, and how you can be aware and discerning about your own filters as well as other people's filters. But first, I would like to say a little bit about myself for those of you who are viewing me for the very first time. I am an information synthesizer, a mystical scholar, and an intuitive. And from my near-death experience, I know with my whole heart and entire being that each one of us is a beloved child of the Creator. We are known individually, and we are loved completely, totally, and beyond measure. I would also like to thank each of you for supporting the channel in whatever way you choose to do so, via watching the podcast, liking, sharing, subscribing. I truly appreciate it. Thank you so much. And so now let's talk about filters. Filters are ways that we gather information, process information, and disseminate information out into the world. Filters are derived from a multitude of experiences, teachings. They can be inherent within our brain. They can come from our ancestors in our DNA. So let's unpack these one by one. And I would ask you to be curious about yourself, curious about your filters. There is no right and there is no wrong here. It's just a manner and way of being and thinking and perceiving the world. The first filter that we'll discuss is our family of origin. That impacts us substantially as to how we see the world. And some components of the family of origin are very, very basic. For example, were we raised in a two-parent household? Was that the traditional family? Or were perhaps the parents of the same sex? Were we raised in a single-parent household, either by a father or a mother? Or did we not have any family at all? Perhaps we were raised in foster care. So that is one basic component as to how we perceive the world. Also, what was our socioeconomic status? Was money plentiful? Did we always have a roof over our head? Was there plenty of food to eat? Was learning encouraged or not so much? Were our parents social climbers? Or were they just happy to be at home, taking care of the family? All of these things impact us tremendously when we're growing up. And recognizing that the way that we grow up and our experience is very true to us does not in any way negate another person's experience that grew up completely differently. There are many, many ways of being, and there are multitudes and innumerable types of families in the world. Another factor in how we perceive the world is our religious or spiritual training. Many religions in the world are based on a lot of rules and principles and order. And because many of these teachings begin when we are so young, they do impact how we view the world. An individual who is raised in a non-denominational household or without a lot of religious structure. Quite often will perceive things very differently than someone who is raised within a strict religious teachings. Not good, not bad, just different. Our socioeconomic status can also impact us greatly as to how we perceive the world, whether it's full of lack or whether it's full of abundance, whether we feel that we'll always have what we need to take care of us, or whether we perceive that there may be shortages, whether we're born male or female, and how the family treats males and females is also another factor that can affect the filters that we perceive the world through, in addition to birth order. In large families, I love to talk with children along the continuum from the oldest to the youngest, and how their perceptions are very different as additional children were born, and how the parents grew, and the different financial stages that the family went through, and the different dynamics. Someone who's born in the first part of a family can have a completely different experience from the individual born who's the last one. So that's another filter for you to explore. How did your family communicate? Were the discussions open about feelings, or about puberty, about religion, about politics, or were things taboo? That can be another huge filter that we process information through. And of course, there is the cultural. Someone who's raised in a white Anglo-Saxon household more than likely is going to have a very different experience, let's say from a Native American in America who was raised on a reservation, or for someone who may be raised in India or Russia. So much of it is cultural and political and regional. And then there are other filters, and one of them is ancestral. If an ancestor of yours suffered severe trauma, even if it's hundreds or thousands of years ago, that can be carried through the bloodline. That can be carried through the DNA of the family. And as I've mentioned previously, each one of us is here at this time to heal not only ourselves, but to heal our family bloodlines. And for example, a child may be born with an extraordinary fear, let's say, of dogs, and nothing in her life or his life has ever warranted this amount of fear. So that fear may be coming from an ancestral trauma. And many of us do carry ancestral traumas and ancestral diseases, because dis-ease means things are not at ease within the body. So the ancestral line does carry not only emotional traumas, but it also carries physical traumas. And if you look at your ancestral line, you can see what is being carried through the bloodline. And you may want to ask yourself, are there any fears that you've carried throughout your life that actually have no basis from your own personal experience? And one of the biggest filters that I don't think a lot of people are aware of is how the brain filters information. How each one of us is a little bit different. And I'm going to base this part of my discussion on the Myers-Briggs personality profiles, which are based on Carl Jung's teachings. And these personality profiles basically explain how each one of us prefers to gather, process, and make decisions in the world. For example, the basic one is, are you an introvert or are you an extrovert? An introvert prefers to process internally, whereas an extrovert likes to be out there getting external stimulation. The extroverts get energy from being with large amounts of people. They're the life of the party. Introverts have a tendency to feel drained by those situations, and they're much happier at home getting recharged. Now, there's a balance to everything. Everyone can be an extrovert, at times, but these are basic overviews of different ways that we walk through the world and take in information and make decisions. The next is sensing versus intuition. Do you prefer to gather information from the five senses, or do you prefer to use intuition? The third one is thinking versus feeling. Do you prefer to make decisions thinking through logical, analytical analysis, or from feeling through empathy and personal values? And the fourth is judging versus perceiving. If you're a person who prefers judging, that's a way for you to achieve order and stability in making decisions. If you're a perceiver, you prefer flexibility and spontaneity. And this isn't in terms of like judging another person. This is making a judgment, a decision, so that you can have order and stability in your life. It's just simply how you process information. So the Myers-Briggs has 16 basic types, and you can go online and take a test yourself if you've never done this. For example, I'm an INTP, which is an introvert, intuitive, thinking, perceiving. It's a wonderful way to become familiar with yourself, and it can also be a tremendous help to understanding others and their needs and how they process information. The more we can understand about ourselves and our filters, the more we can understand others. So I would encourage you to be curious and to understand that we all have filters. No one can be raised on planet schoolroom Earth without having filters. And the filters we have can tremendously and do tremendously impact our lives. So look into your filters. And I would be curious to know what you discover about yourself and the people around you. And as always, be kind to yourself. Be compassionate with yourself. We're all in this together. And we all have filters. But by being aware of them and by being cognizant of how we process information and the filters that we see life through, it can make our life much easier, and it can make dealing with others much easier. As we move through these next few years, we can respect our path and our ways, and we can respect other people's path and their ways. With a lot of curiosity and love for yourself, expand your horizons. Find out what makes you tick. Maybe what makes your aunt and uncle tick, or your father that you've never quite understood, why his communication style is so different from yours. And I'd love to hear what you find out about yourself and the people in your life. And remember, be kind to you. Follow the joy, follow the love, follow the laughter. Thank you for being with me today for this Masterful Chat. And wherever you're at in the world, until we chat again, blessings.